With Morocco out of the World Cup, that means all African teams are out of the World Cup. 10 teams and everybody are out. Nobody made it past quarterfinals this time around. No semifinals for us, no fairy tale, no dreams of Africa winning the World Cup. That means, again, no African team is going to win the World Cup or reach the finals of the World Cup. By 2030, World Cup will reach 100 years in existence. And until then, no African team has actually made it past semi-final before. And you can actually see why. But this tournament has actually been a reality check for African teams, honestly speaking. When you look at African team 15 to 20 years ago compared to now, you will see that there is a difference. The gap is not as much as before, especially in this competition. You can see that it is actually very close. Ivory Coast went head to head with Germany. DR Congo almost defeated England. Morocco actually played three out of the best 10 teams in Europe, all the world at large, and they actually only lost one out of it. You can see, like, African teams actually played very well. Cape Verde almost defeated Argentina. DR Congo had both England and Portugal. Ghana actually had England too. Even though we could not win, when it matters most, you will still see the difference. But it is not as the gap is not as much as it used to be. There are only just few things left for us to just fix. And you start seeing African teams in the semi-finals, in the finals, going head to head. You start seeing African teams like that. The gaps are actually in little details. First, tactically, you will still see the difference when it comes to tactics. Every players understand spacing, every players understand rotation, every players understand how to control the game without the ball. African teams have actually improved massively there. We have actually improved too when it comes to tactically, we have improved. But you still see little details because especially when it comes to concentration. Look at Senegal game against Belgium. Look at Egypt game against Argentina. Just little details. Then the second difference is the squad depth. Something happened in this Morocco game today. Sabari was ruled out because of injury. You could see the difference with Morocco's attack with Sabari and without Sabari. That difference, that little difference of squad depth. When they saw that do it today, they brought in Bakula. African teams do have that squad depth. We have fantastic first team, we have good first 11, but once you start making substitution, you will see the difference in quality drop. So we are still halfway there. We have first 11 now. What is next is to have a good squad depth because squad depth makes you go far in tournaments, especially knockout games like this. Squad depth makes you go far. The next thing is game management. Watch top European teams. They know how to slow the game down. They know when to increase the tempo. They know when to, when cheap fouls to just slow the tempo of the game down. African teams still don't have that game management. Especially, even our coaches don't have that elite game management. Look at, I will point out the Senegal game again against Belgium. If the Senegal coach has not subbed out Papa Gueye in that match, there's actually high probability that Senegal doesn't lose that game. Game management is still where African teams need to work on. They need to know when to slow the game down. They need to know when to increase the tempo of the game, when to win cheap fouls, to just slow the tempo of the game and calm everywhere down. They still need game management, proper game management, especially games of this level of magnitude. If Egypt actually have game management, they would have defeated Argentina 2-0 up in 79 minutes. Senegal 2-0 up in 84 minutes. Game management. The next thing I'll talk about is the psychological aspect. You see, this is one of actually the biggest problem of African teams. Now it is a little bit closer because we actually have elite players coming from big teams coming into the team to play. But once immediately they put on that jersey, there's just that psychology that, like, it just looks like they are just here to complete the numbers and they're not here to win. When you look at European teams, they know they are here to win. When you look at France, when you look at England, they are playing because they want to win. Like, it is their birthright to win the competition. But African teams, we still don't have that mentality yet. Once we start having that mentality of we can win this competition, it is ours, then you will see that we'll start competing. Then the next thing is continuity. When you look at African teams, we don't have that continuity like them. The coaches, look at the Deschamps. He's been coach of France since 2018. You can hardly point to any African teams like that. If Southgate of England has come into this competition, that would have been their coach since 2018 again into this competition. That level of continuity is what African teams also lack. We are actually building for short-term football, and we need to start planning long-term now. Once we start planning long-term, then it will become a little bit closer. If you actually pay attention to this World Cup, you realize that African teams really, really have hope. Like there is hope for us now. We have the physicality, we have the technicality, we have the athleticism. Like we have everything to match European teams now. What is just needed is we need to fix ourselves. Little details, we need to fix it. And once we fix it, they will come back home and start building ecosystems of football that will produce elite coaches, that will produce elite young players, that will focus on football science, that will focus on tactical details and fix our psychology. Because when you dip it, we already have players. We have players. What we need is depth for those players. And what we need is better structure for those players. Then we'll start dreaming. We'll start seeing African teams at the semi-finals, at the finals of the World Cup, even winning the World Cup. We'll start seeing African teams. But one thing is actually so sure now. The gap that existed 15, 20, 50 years ago is not the same gap that exists now. Honestly speaking, it is not the same gap.